white churches owned and rented black slaves or slaves, black people, however you want to put it, or your understanding. I want to take you into how the church played a key role in enslaving black people in bringing that ship which they call Jesus of Lubeck to the shores of Africa and taking out people with the disguise of, okay, we are taking them to go live a better life, to go do this. And initially it was through manipulation. Even though in Africa we had issues, I would want us to listen to Woke Seeker. If you are not following Woke Seeker, I don't know what you're doing. Oh. To get that ancient knowledge, you need to follow Woke Seeker to align with that which you have been questioning in your mind, especially when you have particles of your past life flashing. You need to follow Woke Seeker. He's on all social media platforms. Just search for him, Woke Seeker. If you see him, you will know that he is the one. Within you, your spirit to tell you this is Woke Seeker. Okay? Before I take you to his discussion about how Africa was defeated, I want us to listen to something real quick, then I'll take you to his own discussions.
U.S. churches were full-fledged stakeholders in slavery. Episcopal, Presbyterian, Baptist, Methodist, major denominations owned enslaved people, rented them out, and in some cases, they confined them in jail-like pens beneath or beside their sanctuaries, while white Christians prayed upstairs. Black men, women, and children were shackled below, treated as inventory instead of human beings. Now, it was common for enslavers to require their slaves to go to church so that they could learn about being a humble slave to their masters. But these people held in the pens below were livestock waiting to be sold, being punished. Who knows what? Georgetown University's Jesuit priests sold 272 enslaved people in 1838 to pay off school debts. In Charleston, St. Philip's, and St. Michael's, they forced black attendees into upper galleries while white parishioners sat in comfort below. Methodist ministers in the South regularly enslaved people as personal property. And of course, many ministers in the South enslaved people as personal property. Southern Baptists split from Northern Baptists in 1845 for one reason: to defend their right to keep enslaved people. Churches built slave galleries to force enslaved people to attend services, but not sit with white people. And the sermons told them to obey their masters. But the people locked in the church pens, they weren't taken upstairs to worship. They were confined like livestock. They were waiting to be sold, rented, or punished. The church baptized enslaved people. They preached a lot about obedience, and they promised them life after death in heaven, while profiting from their stolen lives on earth. This is white history, and white Christians especially need to own it. My username works as my address in case I disappear. Get curious.
All right, my majesties. That's Kelly. She said a lot. And these are facts. These are things that you can easily see, verify. You go to the slave castles. Okay? You see the churches up and the dungeons beneath. There's always a church at the top of a dungeon that held black people It's a fact. Before someone will say, oh, you're trying to instigate hate on the media, that's not exactly what happened. Are you going to give excuse for slavery? Are you going to, in your right senses as a human being, give excuse for slavery? Or you're going to tell me it's not about race? It's about what? Why were white people not held underneath like that with they on top preaching? They preach obedience, sacrifice, poverty to these black slaves. As you pour now, there's a richness waiting for you somewhere in heaven. Your riches are in heaven. They are not here. But they are milking and eating off these black people that they have been preaching that their riches are not on earth but in heaven. These same preachers of riches in heaven are not waiting for their own riches in heaven. They are selling human beings. The church worked 100% with the states to enslave black people worldwide. It doesn't need your consent as an African man to accept it or not. Oh, you want us to hate Europeans? You want us to hate white people? That's your business. But I'm here to always tell you this truth. I'm happy. I keep telling you that sometimes I prefer bringing something like this from a European so that when you see, you might have a deeper understanding to see that a European is telling you Africans don't believe fellow Africans. They prefer to believe Europeans. These are facts that we see. All right, let's listen to Work Seeker.
I'm going to show you how and why the very beings that are enslaving free will was able to conquer African spirituality with religion. I know most of you strongly believe that before these particular beings that enslaves free will, the invaders, the colonizers, came onto the shores of Alkebulan, you were living peacefully, there wasn't wars, and you were peaceful, loving people. That isn't the entire truth of the story. In the beginning, I made it very clear that all 9 etheric people, from being the very dark skin complex to being the albino or the one that possesses the red skin, you were all divided into 12 distinct houses. You were all divided into 12 distinct houses, and they made this particular distinction very clear in the Bible about Moses taking you to the promised land. Him seeing the promised land and then he not getting into the promised land. Moses got into the promised land, but most of you brought your hatred. Most of you brought your hatred all the way from Kemet into the promised land. You started fighting, you started warring, you started conquering among your fellow siblings that were weaker than yourselves. That was one part of the reason why the eternal will or the eternal paradise within your own self was shut down and then you were denied until you were able to find out yourselves and understand that you weren't different and distinct from each other. The eternal kingdom will not reveal itself. These particular 12 houses of Israel is the exact representation of what I'm teaching you. The 12 aspect parts of your brain, that is the form that the 3 parts of yourself were divided into. We are going to take each particular house and I'm going to be explaining into deeper context as to why certain group of tribes were given land and other people weren't given land, and land unto others were detained for a specific moment of time. Because when it came to your characters, it varies very differently. And your father saw very well that the way in which some of you, your attitude were, unless you were able to adjust your attitude from one point into another, your elder siblings weren't to designate the land that was promised to you. All of you was meant to occupy all various points of this particular world, to create generations from your own state. So when it came to these particular wars that you were waging among yourselves, most of you went out of your way seeking more power. Most of you wanted ways to conquer other lands and then to include them inside of your so-called empires. So this particular power was when these particular beings that feed on negative frequency, beings that feed on negative malice that was produced onto this particular planet, was what lowered the energy frequency of your planet and allowed them to find their way to this particular place. Your ancestors showed them how to use the tool. Your first ancestor, the tool of iron, was given to them as a benefactor for them to defend themselves as being consumed by the animals from where they were. So they were able to turn this particular iron from being a very benevolent gift into a malevolent gift. And those is what you use to kill yourself these days. They were able to transport those ones by sea and then they got to you. When they first got here and they saw the discord that was happening between every other sibling, they decided to align themselves to one particular group and gave them the firearms, and then you forgot your spiritual selves and then you started sacrificing. That was when human sacrificing started. These people devour pure essence. They devour emotions. They devour the very essence that cause you to grieve. Do you understand what I'm saying? They offered you people the guns, and then in return, you offered them your own people. You traded your own people to them in order to conquer more people. And that was when they saw the opportunity of standing to enslave the entirety of you, because if you couldn't see that all 12 points of the brain is still linking you to one aspect part of the brain, then it was an opportunity waiting for the taking. I want you to imagine this in a very simple context. Me that have 2 children, 1 daughter, 1 son, and you having 5 daughters and then 2 children. And these particular beings or these particular so-called chiefs or kings were doing blood sacrifices in order to gain more power. So they will come to you and then mandatory that every year you were supposed to present 2 of your daughters and 1 of your sons to be sacrificed to their god in order to gain more power so that they can gain more territory. That was the beginning of the problem. You were sacrificing your own selves in order to reach the gods. Meanwhile, your ancestors never demanded any form of human sacrifice. You lost yourselves and then you lost everything else. That was the beginning of how they were able to introduce their so-called God to you. So instead of my family sacrificing 2 of my daughters and 1 of my sons and worshiping the particular God that doesn't demand any human sacrifices, which of them do you think I will worship? Which of them do you actually think that I will worship? Would I worship the gods that takes away my 2 daughters and child? Or would I worship the particular God that demanded no human sacrifices from my aspect? You were ignorant, as you are still now. I want you to watch this particular part of the video.
She's dead. But you or not. Well, Sharon!
Anything to change. These people, your own people, are the ones that they are using to extract that particular energy from you. Think about that.
Woke Seeker has said it all. He has said everything. Like I said, if you're not following him, you're losing a lot. You lost yourself and you lost everything else. You're using the power they give you, and you don't know that in exchange for this power, they are milking your own people. Look at our leaders today. They flock Europe, flock America, run to these people, their leg touch their head. It seems like their placenta was buried in their mouths. Okay? They have no say of them for themselves. They seek for validation from these people. They seek for power. And these people give you power. But you don't know that in exchange for this power, since you sell yourself, you sell your people. Let's listen to that word, the last phrase that he used.
You started somewhere that no one else caused your own problems. You were the architects of your own lives.
Exactly.
So if you want any form of change change needs to start from your very being. You people need to start putting in the change. You can't be the one sitting on top, taking the power that these people have given you to enslave your others.
You caused your problem. And if you're seeking for a change, it has to come from within. And that's why I keep telling you here, before kingdom change, man must change or men must change. You can't say you want to change and the community has not changed. Okay? You can't say so.
These people, your own people, are the ones that they are using to extract that particular energy from you.
Exactly.
Think about that.
Exactly. Your own people are the ones they are using to extract the energy. These archons, these energy vampires use your own people. Use these so-called leaders to extract our energy. They use these leaders, project to these leaders, teach these leaders how to live and siphon money, how to live large. African leaders. These same African leaders run to them and seek for money. They gave democracy to these African leaders, knowing fully well that we cannot thrive in democracy. So through the wailing and the pain, the emotion, they suck off from us and they are surviving. These cabals, this is what they do. And that is why when the Pope came to Africa and you all are happy that he is against the government, after he left, what is happening in Cameroon right now? We will not learn. We are the architect of our problem. We are the source of our problem. And this is why I talk about Selikano, divine unity. It's not about just saying, let's unite. Yes. How is your heart? How do you look at a fellow melanated person? Are you saying, okay, we are blacks in America. We don't have anything to do with blacks in Africa. We are not from Africa. Our life is in America. We are foundational FBA, a foundational black Americans. We don't have, you project hate. These same white people form these organizations that they call themselves FBA. They give you reasons why, okay, no, that was a fake history. And the blacks in Africa are wailing and wallowing in this misinformation. There is a ditch, a gap created between us. This is exactly what they relied on initially to begin to suck off our energy. These are archons that came from the disagreeable beings. But we caused our problems and we have to fix this problem that we've caused. Okay? We have to fix it. If not, nothing will change. Nothing will change. Before religion, this issue existed. Before religion came to the shores of Africa, we already had an internal problem that we need to work on. That is a fact. Even though I have been telling you here that Europe and America is the cause of Africa's problem, we are the initiators. We have to look within and change. If not, we will keep suffering by the hand of these people and there will be no way out for us. This is a fact. They saw a problem. These are white, these forces are using these descendants of theirs in flesh to manipulate. Oh, if black people are so powerful, why then was the white man successful when they came to Africa? Why then are they successful in controlling African countries? We allow it. There is nothing that happens to you without your consent. It is because Africa allows this subjugation. That is why it continues. And how did we allow it? Because from the beginning, we started sowing discord amongst ourselves. We took this grudge and hatred into the promised land, like Woksika said. We left Kemet with this grudge, this hatred for one another. They relied on this thing. They developed on this grudge and hatred. This is their foundation. The more we hate on each other, segregate on each other, the more they succeed and suck off our energy. And they do all of these things through these leaders who indirectly give our consent. Because these leaders are there, They feed these leaders, they control these leaders, they give these leaders modes of leadership for the continent. As you are wailing and you are crying, you are in fear. There is poverty. What do I eat the next day? How do I survive? I'm sick. How do I take care of myself? This fear, this emotion, these icons feed on it. And that is why we call them energy vampires. Now just this. Okay. He said it clearly. There is no God that would ask you for a blood sacrifice. No. Now begin to look into your Bible and question blood sacrifice from time past. Which God is always in love with sacrificing blood? Which God? Is this a creator? How can the creator of the universe want you to sacrifice an animal for it to eat? How? When this source of life created the animal, how can you say this? Do you eat your child? As a mother, as a father, you cook your child and eat your child. If you don't, then why do you think that the creator of life wants your blood? It is these lower entities that are sucking you off. And the outcomes these lower entities are working for are sucking off your energy, the fear you emit, the emotions you put out there in public. Not even public, what you feel. And what drives them away, what they fear most is unconditional love. When there is unconditional love, there is no hatred, there is no pain, there is no sorrow. There is joy and happiness. That is what destroys them. But what they feed off of is fear, anger, hatred, malice, all these, vices. This is what they feed off of. And that is why they need to cause chaos within so that they will turn us upside down. Before kingdom change, men must change. I'll see you in my next one.